Hello, everybody. My talk today is about exploring the time space of entertainment in Shanghai. It's also with advertisements, advertising, but this is a different approach. And this is a starting project. It's starting to take off, in fact, and it started from a very different perspective. Initially, in fact, it was a project about going from print to print. From print to print, I mean from newspaper to a print book, a print source book. This project was initiated by my colleague, Professor Jiang Jin at Aix-Marseille University in Shanghai, when she mobilized cohorts of students. And I think that mobilize is a weak word, in fact, because she allotted each of them a time slot and a newspaper, and each of them had to go and collect advertisements in these newspapers and actually write their own MA thesis on that. And so the purpose really was to go through these newspapers, 4 newspapers, the Shenbao, the Xinwenbao, the Xinwenribao, and the Jiefangzhibao, covering a very long period. I just give you a few examples of these newspapers. And this is the final production that my colleague was targeting. And this was fine. I discovered this project at the end of 2008, when she was almost 2/3 through the project. And I said, what are you going to do? And she said, I'm going to publish a book. I say, fine. But given the amount of work and the amount of information that you are gathering through this work, because the students were actually literally transliterating, retyping everything, all the content of the advertisements. And so I said, look, there's one way to do it, to use it in another way. And I said we could turn that into a database to take full advantage of the content. And so I asked the questions, what tool did you use to collect? And that's when my enthusiasm went down very fast. He said, MS Word. And as you know, MS Word is terrible when it comes to processing and retrieving and everything. Anyway, this is a sample. So they extracted things from these 4 newspapers. As you can see, for anyone who has worked on that, it's a lot of work. It's not just like it's printed clearly, etc. It's big, it's small, it's messy. And the students, most of them worked on microfilms, not the real newspapers, not the digitized version. It was before the digitized version. So I give you just a few ideas of what you have to go through, and you have then to have, what do I type? What do I retranscribe into my work, in my form? This is how they actually produced, they transcribed everything. This is a neat version. Now the Word file was a little more messy, but this is the pages of the book. But basically this is how they collected things. Name of the facility, genre, as it was expressed in the advertisement, and then everything else that appeared in the text. That is, title of the show, the day, the price of the ticket, everything was all together in just one cell. So there's no way I could process this. So I was glad to be working at the time with a colleague who was very good in databases, and so I will spare you the detail. We did it in 2 steps, but eventually we had to hire students to redo everything. By redo, I mean we set up the database and they just copy-pasted. I didn't want them to make the decision or to retype, just copy-paste in the right. So we trained them as to do that properly. This is the information that we have from this advertisement. Name of the facility, genre, title of the performed item, date of the show, I will explain, time of the show, day or evening, the source and the date of the source, page number in the source, name of actors. We even have a code for the size of the advertisement. This was in the source itself. Then we worked a little bit to add year and date, which was a calculated feed. And then we added identifier for each facility, each show, each performed item, I will explain, for each actor, A show is usually, well, a show can be a movie, in which case a show equals a perform item. But in the case of opera, many times it was several pieces of a different drama. So you would have one show, but 4, 5, 6 performed items, and you have to keep track of that. Okay. Also, some big amusement centers in one ad could have 45 different performed items. So there's a lot of work to do to make sure that we have a database that maintains all these links. Last, of course, location of the facility. And this was the most difficult thing because, of course, the address was most of the time not given. When it was given, it's sometimes just Baoshantie. A name of a street, and a street does no longer exist, as I was mentioning with Ruth this morning, disappeared places. And actually, altogether, I have about something like 800 places, and I did all the the geocoding manually, which means looking for these different places. So this is what we have. At the bottom, you have the evolution of the number of ads per record. This is the bottom line. And the advertised performed items. You can see the discrepancy. You can also see that in one ad, you can have a multitude of items. So we have built a large collection in which we give you a few numbers. The total number of shows is 82,000, a little more, okay? And altogether, we have close to 140,000 performed items identified by title, exactly. Films, drama, etc. 800 facilities and a population of more than 30,000 actors. And I'm showing you here just the top 10 on the left, top 20 if you take all of them. Most of them appear only once. Okay, I have only these few guys here appear more than 50 times. You can imagine all the rest appear less than that. I won't give you the statistics, I don't have the time. Now, what I try to do, sorry for the messy thing, is of course, what can we do with that? It is fantastic. You can use it in many ways. This is why I say it's just a starting process. I just try to map things to give a sense of the place where commercial entertainment was performed. And it's not necessarily professional places. It can be a hotel. This is a good part. I will show that also for cinemas, for instance, for the movie. So this is what I get in the period from 1907 to 1919. I'm sorry, this is from 1907 to 1920. You can see the expansion of the places. For the core place in Shanghai, you see progressively an expansion. This is what we get when you're in the 1920, 1950s. So you have a much wider spread, of course. And this is what we have for the period 1950, 1966. You can see an expansion, and you would also see that the nature of the facilities changed. We have these workers' club, workers' palace, workers, etc. We can also associate these data to other things. So here I just show the facilities in terms of number of performances. Many places just had very few, and some of them had very many. The visualization has to be improved. I did this very recently. But the good thing is that you can also add other items. You can add population. You can add transportation system. We can add many things to make sense of these places. Why are they here? And of course, you can do that over time to show that there must be some factors that explain why these places are here. A few examples of what we can do, for instance, that I did just for Peking Opera, Jingju, just for a brief period, just from 1907 to 1920. The rest is not being shown here. Again, this is not facilities devoted to Peking Opera. Is there any facility where Peking Opera was being shown? It could be a hotel, it could be a movie theater, etc. In this period, probably they were called like Chaiyuan, Huayuan, all kinds of places, but you can see for this very short period that it does not expand very much. Peking Opera remains very much in the center of the city, which is different for cinema. So sorry for the messy thing. This is movie shows. Okay, places where movies were shown in Shanghai between 1907 and 1919 on this slide. Okay, you can see, of course, that in the next 3 decades it's expanding over the city. You can see concentrations somehow, and this is the period after 1950, where you see much less, in fact, in terms of places to show. So I said it's the very beginning because I can see a lot of potential. You can use social network analysis. You can use spatial tools. You can all kinds of ways to make sense of this information. I plan to work much more on this than I have been able to do, because the one thing that's fantastic with the database is that it provides you with a huge amount of data, but you have to clean it. Lots of small mistakes, inconsistencies, and the more you have, and the more you have to spend time to do it. So this time, when I process the data, this is precisely for me to see what remains to be done, to make sure that it's ready, and then I can go public and make it available to everyone, because this is going to be public and available to anyone for use and to do research. I believe that even though what we have here are advertisements, that is, it does not represent reality. It represents only these places that advertise at one point, okay? So it's not reality. Maybe we miss a lot. Maybe we miss because these are samples. It's based on sample. It's not every day. It's impossible. It's too much. I mean, it would be too much. But I do believe that this is the best source documentation ever that we'll have on the cultural life of Shanghai, what was going on, what people could see, what was on the offer, etc. Because this is the only place where you have such a concentration of information. Thank you very much.